Hey, it's been a minute since I've done a commentary. Life's been getting in the way, but I had something I wanted to talk about today. I've been thinking about it for a while. As you can tell, this isn't a continuation of that series I started with the playlist. I'm going to be bringing that back pretty soon. But for today, I'm going to talk about my opinion on gutturals and more importantly, how they're used. So I want to stress before I really talk about any of this is an opinion. Uh, Do what you want. It's metal. Like, do what you think's best. But this is what I think. So so I want to talk about the repetitive nature of super deep gutturals. And I want to emphasize that your deepest gutturals. A lot of vocalists have figured out how to do it. Now it's been around since the 80s, but like every new death metal, slam, just any extreme metal that isn't black metal, they're all doing it. And it sounds exactly the same almost every time. And again, this is super deep, deepest humanly possible gutturals. We'll talk about other types later, but the issue with this is I think a thing we can all agree on is an important quality a new band can have is uniqueness. That's what makes a new band get popular. You want the listener to come to you to hear this specific thing that they can't hear anywhere else. And I just feel like a lot of bands aren't offering that. I feel like they look at their peers and they think, well, how can we do this? They figure out how to do it, and then they don't do anything else. They don't add anything of their own. Like it could be as simple as the guitar player having a specific technique he likes to write with a lot and adding that in, even if it's unconventional for metal, or well, for that genre of metal. And again, I'm here to talk about vocals, not guitar, but that's just an example of what I'm saying. This is what's happening with the vocals. It's like, man, these guys can make this super deep guttural sound. How do I do it? Well, he figures it out. It sounds exactly like them. Because the thing is, when your voice gets that deep, you lose all of everyone's got a unique voice of their own. That's what's kind of cool. But at that depth of gutturals, you kind of lose that. Because I think we can agree most gutturals sound almost identical. I know if you listen to a shit ton of these bands and you're like a huge fan, you're gonna be able to tell the slight nuances with their voices, but for the most part, their voices sound the same because they're forcing their voices to sound the same. I'm not saying that everyone needs to just come up with their own unique vocal style, forget gutturals. Everyone has to do something different. That's impossible. Okay, there's only so many things you can do with your voice that are musical. What I'm saying is you need to bring out the natural tone of your voice. And all you have to do that is just raise the pitch a little bit on the gutturals. It's still gutturals. Because let's look at some people who are extremely successful and do the type of gutturals I'm talking about. First example would be Chuck Schuldiner. In my opinion, he's got the best gutturals of all time. Early Chuck, like Human, like that album, perfect. Because Chuck had a higher voice. He probably didn't even have the capability to do the gutturals I'm talking about, but he was still using the guttural part of his throat and producing a really harsh vocal tone. It's still gutturals, but you hear his voice. When you hear Chuck, you know it's Chuck. There's no question. It can be somebody who's not even that big of a Death fan. If they've heard a few songs and they paid attention to what he sounds like, they're going to be able to identify Chuck from anybody else. Another good example is Joe Plantier from Gojira. Also uses the guttural part of his throat. And before you get mad in the comments, I know that it's more than the throat. It's also the diaphragm to produce the gutturals. But you get what I'm saying. They're using all that same equipment, but just a slightly higher pitch. And then you can tell. Everyone knows what Joe Plantier sounds like. I mean, especially with how many other projects he's done, like just on the side. Gojira with Gojira and Meshuggah did something together. I listened to it the other night, but like you instantly know it's Joe Plantier, and he's doing gutturals. But what I'm saying is, if some of these vocalists from these other bands doing the super super deep gutturals, I'm not gonna be able to tell who this is, even if I've heard a million of their songs. It's just like, oh, well, it's another guy who can produce that sound. Cool. And again, nothing wrong with it. It's just not exciting either. It doesn't give your band much of an identity. Well, the identity it gives them is, well, this is brutal death metal. But is that all you want to be? Do you just want to be another brutal death metal band? Or do you want to be, insert your band name here? Like, that's kind of the choice you got to make with this stuff, because like it or not, a lot of people that listen to music, the first thing they're going to notice and the first thing they're going to remember is your vocalist and what they sound like. Being unique is the best thing you can do, especially in this genre. It's always been that way. Every band that gets the spotlight, they did something different. And vocals are an easy one to change, because all I'm saying is, it's not like you have to learn some complicated technique. You do the same thing you're already doing, but you just raise it up a little bit, and you let your natural voice be the unique part. It's not even something learned. It's just your biology. With all that being said, the point of this video is it's just an opinion. This is just what I think about it. If you're a musician, you should do whatever you think makes your music sound the best. If you think it's the deepest possible gutturals, that's what's going to make your song be great, then do them. But from one musician and one metal fan to another, that's my take on it. I just think that the most important thing a band can do is bring something new to the table. Even if it's not completely innovative, I just mean a unique combination of different techniques. So anyway, that's what I think about it.